Hello and welcome to my first kiting guide for a specific map, and we're going to be starting off with Nagrand Arena. Now Nagrand is a pretty simple map. It's only got 4 pillars and that's what you're going to be using to kite people. I know that this is the original Nagrand, but I don't think that there's any big differences in terms of like the space, and there's certainly no difference in the layout. First thing I want to talk about is your transcendence. So on this map, these pillars are pretty nicely spaced out for you. I like to leave my port on the corner of this right here. So if you were to walk out the door, the first thing I do is I go here and I place my port on this corner. Reason being is because, if you're fighting out here, you can still reach your port. And if you swap to this pillar when you're kiting, you can reach it from anywhere on this pillar and it's out of line of sight. So let's just say, for example, that a Death Knight is chasing you and you have to port from here, you're out of line of sight. However, if you were to leave your port, let's say here, and then you were running, and then an emergency hit and you had to port from here, they have enough time to run around that side and grip you back. Whereas if you had ported here, that little difference just around that corner, they wouldn't have been able to death grip you no matter what. Because even if you were here and you ported, they can't grip you, you're out of line of sight. And then by the time that you start running, there's no hope, they're not going to get you. So this corner is my favorite. You can leave your port, back here if you want, but you won't reach it at the far corner of that one. I like leaving it here because it's out of line of sight and you can reach it anywhere on that pillar, as long as you're next to it. If you port from here, you're out of line of sight. If you port from here, you're out of line of sight. As long as you're not porting from here, you're good once you port. Basically, it's just the side that's always facing the wall. So if it's here, on this pillar, it's facing the wall behind you. If it's the pillar on this side, then you'll be leaving it here, because the wall's behind you. So in terms of using your port, it's basically, you always want to try and get the most distance out of it. I mean, it's not always possible. There are times when something just goes wrong, you might just have to port, even if it's like from this far. Sometimes you're just in a bad spot, and it's like, well, I have to port now no matter what, or I'm going to die. So that happens. But if you're in a position where it's under your control, you're generally going to want to try and port from the other pillar. So you will leave your port on that pillar, and then you'll be playing from this pillar. So you'll be healing yourself up. Someone runs around, you can port, you're out of line of sight, and then you keep healing. And then eventually they're going to get to you, and then you've got your 2 rolls, you've got your serpent kick, and of course you've got your CC, and your slows as well. You always want to be keeping them slowed, it's a big rule. So when it comes to going between pillars, you can make this distance basically in a roll. Like, you won't be able to get from this corner to that corner and get out of line of sight in one roll. But you can cover it mostly, but you have to position it right. So if someone is chasing you around here, if you don't want to be stopped, I'm going to use warriors and DKs a lot for this example, because they're melee, which you're probably going to be kiting a lot in this patch, and they have stops for your rolls. If a warrior charges you, or if a Death Knight grips you in one of your rolls or your serpent kicks, it gets stopped. And of course, if you get one of them stopped, it's not exactly great for you. So for example, let's just say that I am kiting a warrior around here, and I want to go to that pillar. I want to make sure that he's slowed, first of all, and when I'm running around this side, I want to make sure that when I'm rolling for that pillar, he's around here. If he is standing here, I would start rolling from about here. Then I would roll outside into this direction, and then go like that. There is a chance that he can stop you if he swaps directions, but if he's slowed or if you root him before you do it, he's not going to stop you, right? So as long as he's out of line of sight of your path, when you go for that roll, you're safe. You can also, if you want, take this route where you go straight. Either way, it's going to take like roughly the same amount of time. But as long as you are making sure that he's out of line of sight when you go for that roll, there's less of a chance that he's going to stop you. If he does stop you, then that's when you're going to have to use extra mobility to get away. So if you go for the roll, and then he stops you mid-roll, and you end up about here, and he charges you, you're going to be waddling, and then you're going to have to use another roll if you want to get out of his range. If you don't have another roll, then you might have to serpent kick. If you don't have a serpent kick, then you're going to have to CC, but if he's a warrior, he's going to have Zerker Rage for that sap, so you're going to have to stun him, and you go through a lot. Just by making sure that he's out of line for that roll, you'll use a lot less than you have to. Of course, you do have access to your port as well, but if that's on cooldown because you just used it, then you don't have that either. You want to use as little as possible when you get the opportunity. And of course, mistakes are going to happen, things are not going to go your way, so you have to use what you got to use. But by trying to minimize those mistakes is how you can live through extended periods of kiting. So like I said, leaving the port on the corner and trying to roll between these pillars when they're out of line of sight is going to benefit you a lot. Now, with Serpent Kick, it is your biggest mobility. It's going to take you a really, really long distance. If you're running Tiger Style, it's going to be even better because you can jump at the end of it. With one Serpent Kick, you can basically cover this. So if you go Serpent Kick, you can make that distance without jumping. If you have jump though, if you have Tiger Style, you can go that distance, which is diagonal. That is the biggest distance that you can cover, going from that pillar to that pillar. And I'll show you, because I could make this distance without jumping. If I go from there to there, I'm not going to make the whole distance in a Serpent Kick. See how I'm still not out of line of sight? If you jump, you'll make that. Now, ideally with your Serpent Kick, you want to be going cross map with it, because that's how you get the most distance. If you're using your Serpent Kick to go this, you're getting about half of its potential. Whereas you're getting the full potential if you're going that way. However, don't just go for crossing the map recklessly, because again, if it is a warrior or a DK and you go across the map and they can, see it coming, grip you back, and that's your Serpent Kick gone, right? So again, when you don't want them to stop you, get them out of line of sight. If you're going cross map, you want to have them about here. So you'd be running around the pillar. As soon as they get to this point, that's when you just zoom off. Jump at the end, you're here, no problems. And you place your port at this corner again, and that's when you start cutting between these two. They get over, you've got your rolls back, you run around this side, roll between them. They get over here, port back. And then by the time they go over here again, you're probably going to have your Serpent Kick available. And if you have them slowed, it'll be taking them longer, which you should have them slowed. And then again, once they get to this point, just jump at the end, you're fine. And you place your port again, and it just rinse and repeat. And while that's all going on, when you're not moving or anything, you're just healing yourself up. Now there is one thing that you can do on this map, which is a little bit hard. But what you do is, when someone's chasing around the pillar, you will sap them or slow them or root them somewhere on this side of the pillar before you go across the map. Then you'll start running out to this side, and then you'll Serpent Kick, jump, leave your port on that pillar, and run to this one. Now it's not like perfectly next to the pillar, right? But if you do port from the other side of this pillar, you can make it back. So the purpose of it is basically, I went from this side to this side, but I placed my port on the alternate pillar on this side of the map. Because if I went from here to there, and I placed my port, once they got to me, I'd have to roll to this one. But now, my port's on that side, and I didn't have to roll, so they have to travel diagonally. And then once they get to me, I can just port, and I'm pretty close to that corner. They're not going to be able to stop me if they're on that side, and that's a pretty big distance in itself, right? Another little trick that you can do if you're playing something like Double Windwalker, you can fit a Ring of Peace in this little corner. There are certain spots where you can fit Ring of Peace where people can't get through, like here. So if you put your ring here, this basically just creates a barrier for you so that they would have to go around. Because if you put your ring here and you're on this side, they can only get through by going around. Once they start going around, you just walk through. So you're safe. So that's a good ring spot. Of course, got the Serpent Kick trick, and that is basically everything that I've got. There's other maps where there are really good ones, like Blade's Edge, of course, Dalaran. There's some good stuff that you can do there. But Nagrand is a pretty basic arena to kite on. It's just swapping between pillars and traveling across with your Serpent Kick, and that's it. As long as you're minimizing the mobility that you're using, you should be pretty fine. So Blade's Edge is probably going to be the next one, once I get time to do it. Hopefully this was helpful. As always, leave any comments if you have anything to say. Cheers for watching, and I'll catch you guys later.